It's important to remember that NFTs are not the only culprit for environmental damage. Industries such as agriculture and energy, have far more impact on the environment, but that's not the topic of discussion today. If we were just to limit our discussion to music and art industries, things like touring, putting on an art exhibition, the transportation of artworks and materials, they're all major contributors to environmental damage. Therefore, it seems hyperbolic to me when people criticize NFTs without considering the carbon-heavy models that we're used to consuming art and music, just because those models have been around much longer than NFTs. Thus, as an artist, my approach is to become aware of the new challenges that new technologies bring. In this case, the environmental impact of NFTs, to make more informed choices in order to leverage all the benefits it also comes with. In this case, I'm talking about music NFTs specifically. The most famous research done on the environmental impacts of NFTs are by LÂLKA and Atkin. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing the names right. These studies have been largely a DIY affair with no peer-reviewed research done by academics, and the methodology being used by different parties varies widely. I'm not saying this immediately discredits LÂLKA and Atkin and makes their research invalid. I'm just saying that there needs to be more stringent research that also calculates the direct relationship between NFTs and CO2 emissions. Now, to calculate the direct relationship of NFTs and CO2 emissions, one would have to calculate if the NFTs have caused a shift in demand for the overall blockchain network. To put things into perspective, Ethereum accounts for roughly 0.02% of our total CO2 output. NFTs on the Ethereum blockchain are an even smaller fraction of that 0.02%. To put it into context, YouTube and the entire Ethereum network have a similar carbon footprint. Streaming, that includes Netflix, Spotify, Tidal, is responsible for 3 to 4% of the global carbon footprint. This measurement includes measuring the carbon footprint of producing devices, and most of this consumption comes from fossil fuels. 1 hour of music streaming produces about 55 grams of emissions. CDs emissions are 3 times that of streaming, and vinyl emissions are 40 times bigger. So clearly, streaming has less of a negative impact on the environment than vinyls and CDs. We are streaming more, thus increasing carbon emissions, but we are also replacing consumption models that were previously more carbon intensive. I've said this before and I'll say it again, we live in a capitalist society, and as artists, we need to learn how to navigate these capitalist structures to survive. Now, one of the things artists like myself do is we sell physical merchandise like clothes, with streaming services paying almost nothing. I do rely on the sale of these merchandise to financially survive. Artists and software engineer Sterling Crispin provides a comparison of NFTs on a per dollar basis to other things artists sells, which means assuming an NFT is priced at $300, this NFT produces less CO2 per dollar than a cheap $15 t-shirt. So it's clear that selling less NFTs for money is a better alternative for the environment than selling a lot of physical merchandise. One of the flaws in LÂLKA's argument was that his data compared his CO2 output for his studio practice when he was creating his NFT collection, which he described as focus on projections of light in space rather than producing many physical works. Now, if LÂLKA had produced many physical works that sold for the amount made from the NFT collection, look, he would have probably exceeded his CO2 output as well. I mean, that's just my take. Because he didn't do it, I don't know. NFTs offer novel opportunities for a broad range of assets and authentication mechanisms that are an improvement from, say, bearer bonds, title certificates that are vulnerable to fraud. In the early days, we saw the insane hype from art NFTs that did not have any utility at all beyond investment speculation. However, I sense that fans and people now seek more from artists and NFTs. Besides the economic benefit to artists, NFTs are a social coordination device. They are ways to give, activate, and engage an artist's fan base. This shifts the relationship between creator and fan from a rental one with streaming and social media to an ownership-based one where fans can have a piece of what they love and possibly a stake in the success of the artist. Now, this shift can speak volumes about who they, as in the fans, are and their identity. As an artist, it personally means so much for me to know that my art makes an impact on others. And as a lover of music and art, you know what? I love having the ability to own a piece of work by an artist I love. However, to do this, an infrastructure with efficiency, flexibility, and scalability is required. And that's where NFTs come in with the use of blockchain technology. Being outraged by NFTs and their environmental impact is totally understandable, and outrage is a form of attention. But attention is a finite resource, and instead of not doing anything about the environmental crisis, we should be focusing on how we can push for improvements with the technologies that society benefits from. Knowing the potential harm NFTs can do to the environment, I have decided as an individual and as an artist to do the following in my process of creating an NFT as sustainably as possible. Firstly, I'm choosing a blockchain that runs on proof of stake, which greatly reduces the carbon footprint as opposed to a blockchain that runs on proof of work. Now, most NFTs are on the Ethereum blockchain, and right now the Ethereum is moving towards proof of stake. It's still currently proof of work. Yes, this has been coming for what seems like a long time now. I mean, they've been talking about this since 2013, and the delay has no doubt caused some cynicism of whether it's actually going to happen. Like, why are they taking so slow? Well, the thing is, Ethereum's final proof of stake test was recently deemed a success, and it's likely to happen on September 15th, so fingers crossed. Now, note that proof of work and proof of stake are not the only options. There's proof of good, proof of authority, etc. Now, all mechanisms have trade-offs, whether it be security, scalability, decentralization, energy use, or accessibility. Secondly, I'm considering offsets. It's important not to treat offsets as a shortcut around reduction. It's also worth noting that the concept of the personal carbon footprint was in fact promoted by the oil company BP to push decarbonization on individuals and distract from the real polluters, oil companies. That said, I think everyone should consider their lifestyle and everyday choices to try to achieve a more positive outcome for the overall ecosystem. Me personally, I've been vegetarian for about 10 years, vegan for about 5. I don't own a motor vehicle as I take public transport or walk. I make my physical merchandise in small runs and as sustainably as possible. And as for touring, well, the pandemic put an end to that for about the last 3 years. Look, I understand the cynicism that comes with the hype around NFTs. However, the fact that there is such hype means that we are getting the engineering talent, the mindshare, and the financial capital to invest in improving and developing new technology that ultimately shapes the way we interact as a society and, benefits a lot of us. So this is just my take on how I, as an artist, navigate the challenges and environmental damage that NFTs have. And if you're interested to check out my sources, I'll put a link in the comments and you can check it out yourself.